Hello, my name is Mr. Randall and I'm one of the sociology teachers here at Rawlins. I'm going to talk to you today about what sociology is and involves. So, as you can see from the slide, it says that sociology is the study of how society is organised and how we experience life. Sociology involves looking at external influences and the structures. These include the family, education, the media, religion, and how these impact on groups and individuals in society. Sociology involves looking or analysing society using a theoretical framework. So we'll look at theories such as functionalism, Marxism, feminism, and others, and their interpretations and explanations of the world we live in. Sociology is an exciting and lively subject. It's a useful subject to study because it enables us to understand the society which we live in. It enables us to, or encourages you to question the way society is organised and to realise that things aren't always as they seem. So sociology has the following course structure. There are 3 exam papers, and paper 1 is education and theory methods. Paper 2 is our topic-based paper, and this is where we get a choice of topics. The ones we do at Rawlins are families and households and beliefs in society, which I'll talk about in a minute. And paper 3 is Crimedeviance with theory and methods. There are core themes that run throughout these topics. We cover these to begin with at the beginning of year 12, and we return to them throughout the 2 years. And these are socialisation, culture and identity, and social differentiation, power and stratification. So in year 12, once we started, we do a brief introduction, particularly for those that have not done sociology before, and then one of your teachers will start with families and households. It's quite a large topic. We study in the first year. It takes up most of the first year. And here are some of the questions that we cover. So, are families necessary to society? So we look at some theories and theoretical explanations of why families are or are not necessary in society. How is the family related to the economy? Should the government interfere in family life? And there are arguments for and against this, and we'll look at these in our discussions. What's the impact of changing patterns of marriage, cohabitation, separation, divorce, childbearing, death rates, and family size on society? So again, we'll be looking at trends in society and looking at the various explanations for these changing trends in, for example, the rise in divorce. What are the reasons for these changes, as I've just said? How have roles and relationships changed within the family? How has the status of children changed, particularly in the last 100 years in the UK? So the other teacher at the same time will be teaching you education, and it's again quite a large topic that will be covered through most of your year 12. And some of the questions that we cover include: why is education important to society? Again, we'll be looking at this from a range of different perspectives, including functionalism and Marxism, because they have different ideas and different opinions on why and if education is important. It's necessary to have different forms of education for different people. Why do some groups in society achieve more highly than others? So, for example, we'll be looking at girls achieving better than boys over recent years and consistently now in almost all subjects and in all years. So we're looking at what those trends are, and we'll be looking at explaining those trends. So looking at things that go on at home and also things in schools, and to see which one has more impact. We're also looking at policies and the impact that policies have had on the experience of education, both outside of schools and inside schools. And then towards the end of year 12, we'll be looking at research methods in some depth. So looking at how sociologists research and collect their data and evidence. So we're looking at a range of research methods, including questionnaires, interviews, observations, and official statistics, and so on. So in year 13, one of the big topics that we cover is crime and deviance. Again, it's quite a big topic, and it takes most of the second year with one of your teachers. And here's a list of some of the questions that we cover. So what's the distribution of crime and deviance by ethnicity, gender and class? So we'll be looking at the trends, and we'll be looking at, so what do the patterns and trends reveal? and we're looking at explaining these patterns and trends using the various different theoretical perspectives. What impact has globalization had on crime? Okay, so looking at the impact, particularly in the last 20 years of the growing globalization and what it means for crime here in the UK and around the world. What's the relationship between the media, human rights and crime? So we'll be spending a few lessons looking at how the media has impacted crime and whether or not actually the media causes more crime. How do groups attempt to control crime? How are victims protected? What's the role of the criminal justice system and other agencies? So we're looking at things like prisons, and we're having a short debate about whether or not prisons are effective or not, whether prisons actually do reduce crime, or whether actually they might be part of the problem. Okay. At the same time, the other teacher in year 13 or the second year will be teaching new beliefs in society. So here's some of the questions we'll be looking at. And so what's the purpose of religious beliefs in society and for individuals? How far does religion and beliefs cause conflict and change? So again, one of the big discussions in beliefs in society is to what extent it does cause conflict, because some theories argue it doesn't, and other theories and evidence suggest that it is a source of conflict. Is religion declining in importance? So we've been looking at lots of evidence for and against the view that religion is declining, or in fact might just be changing or not declining in the UK. What new religious movements are there? And then we return back to theory methods towards the end of year 13. A couple of the big discussion or debates that we will be looking at is whether sociology is a science and should be a science and considered a science. How does sociology influence social policy and society in general? So again, this topic we'll be looking at bringing all the previous topics together in looking at the impact and the influence that sociology has more generally. In terms of assessment, as I mentioned earlier, sociology involves 3 two-hour papers, all taken at the end of year 13, or the second year of your study. Paper 1 is education with theory methods, and they're all worth a third of the overall mark. So the education section is worth 50 marks, and that's a mixture of 2 short answer questions. The rest of it is extended writing, so essay based. There's a methods in context question and a theory methods questions, and they're all extended writing answers. Paper 2 is the topics in sociology. As I said earlier, the 2 topics that we do are families and households and beliefs in society. And there will be 6 questions in that paper in total. So there'll be 4 10-mark questions and 2 20-mark questions, which makes up the full paper. And then paper 3 is crime and deviance with theory methods. So 50 marks worth of crime questions, which mirrors paper 1. And there are 2 short answer questions, and the rest of it is extended writing, including a 30-mark essay question. And the theory methods, extended writing, the 20-mark and a 10-mark question. You'll notice that overall, apart from the 4 questions on paper 1 and 3, which are smaller mark questions, the vast majority of them are extended writing. It's an essay-based subject. So you might be thinking, well, what can I do with sociology? Where can it lead me? Well, as it says here on the slide, sociology students tend to go into university to study a whole range of courses, and these include things such as law, politics, criminology, social work, policy, health and community care, economics, media, journalism, education and business, and so on. And I've just put a list of some of the jobs that you might want to consider, but these are not exhaustive. There's a lot more jobs, but these are just some of the relevant ones. So things ranging from a crime analyst, lawyer, paralegal, police officer, and social service workers, lecturers, journalism, teaching, professors, and so on. So there's a whole range of careers and jobs that you can go into after studying sociology. So in terms of our expectations, as you'll see from our website, that the entry requirement is that you need at least a 5 in English language or literature. As I mentioned earlier, it's a largely essay-driven, extended writing-driven subject. So you need to be able to write write well. It's not essential to have taken GCSE sociology before. In fact, many of our students haven't. It's usually about, well, roughly 50-50. And sometimes some students have, some have not. You will not be disadvantaged in any way long term if you've not taken GCSE sociology before. In terms of expectations, it's the same with most other subjects, I should imagine. So it's about being punctual and being organised, high levels of engagement and strong work ethics in and outside the lesson. So in a subject like sociology, we expect that you do wider reading, you keep on top of on the news and current affairs and see what's going on, because we'll apply and talk about those in lessons. It's about being an independent learner, being reliable and able to meet deadlines, and making a positive contribution in class. So we'll be having many discussions. It's a discussion-based subject, and there's lots to talk about, and it'd be great if you could make some contribution in lessons. So in terms of enrichment opportunities, the ones that we usually have in normal circumstances include Harrow School and a visit to court. So in terms of Harrow School, it's a big public school, and we tend to go for a day to compare the different types of schools, so state system versus the private school system and the fee-paying system, which is, tends to be eye-opening and interesting to a lot of our students. And also there'll be a visit to a court, which usually happens between year 12 and year 13, because we study Crimedeviance in year 13, so this gives us a bit of an insight into the court system and how the courts work. So there'll be a choice of which courts you go to if we are in usual circumstances by that point.